Welcome, everyone. Fred Gleek here again with Bill DeWeese for our weekly voiceover VO podcast, whatever we're calling it these days. And
I call it the weekly day of reckoning.
The weekly day of reckoning to find out what the heck happened with Bill DeWeese's week in the voiceover business. And so, Bill, how was your week?
It was okay. It wasn't as good as I would like for it to have been. Remember what we talked about the past few weeks?
Sure.
The chickens came home to roost this week, so this is where it caught up with me. My week was $2,659, so not as good as I would have liked for it to have been.
I suspect that you may be getting a thrashing from the wife for not having pulled your weight.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Vicky's pretty good to me in that regard, so because she knows I'll usually come, I'll make up for it the next week. So,
God, so now did that just before you go through the individual things of what happened? Did that bother you? Did that make you kind of, when you look at the numbers for this week?
Oh, I never like it. I won't lose sleep over it. I don't like it. Is just for those maybe who are just new to this podcast. My weekly goal is always $5,000. So that's what I'm looking to hit. So if I hit below, if I go below 4,000, I get a little concerned. But this, I know how to account for it. And last week was really kind of an anomaly that I did as well as I did because I knew it was coming because I'd been sick for a while and there was a lot going on. And Tyler just graduated. I took some time off for that. So I knew because I had not been auditioning as much as I had been in the past and marketing as much.
Do you also think that this week's downturn was somewhat a residual from the time you were sick?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly what it is.
So, in other words, it was because of that time where you weren't auditioning, you weren't putting things in the pipeline and getting things, ready to go. So let's go ahead and let's go back then. If that's the case,
from experience, I know there's about a 4-week lag on anything, be it good or bad.
Cool. So let's start with Monday. What happened on Monday?
On Monday, I did a couple of projects. I had a couple of regional TV ads that I do for a company out of Florida. And they've been a long time. I found them on Craigslist. That's where I found that client years ago.
Years ago, okay.
Yeah, and they have given me, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars of work. I get a lot of work from these guys. Also, I did some business on hold. It was a very light Monday. That was it.
You know what? Let me ask you this, because this is something that I think a lot of VO people should probably keep. And maybe I'm putting you on the spot by asking it this way, but if I were to ask you, and basically then you would ask Mallory, could you tell me the total number of dollars generated since the inception of working with these people that you just spoke about in the TV world? Could you tell me pretty precisely how much total revenue you've made with them over the course of your relationship?
I'm sure it could be calculated digging through the records off the top of my head. I mean, I don't mind telling you. I can make it a wild guess. Let's see here.
You don't have a way to tell.
I can't tell you exactly. It's probably been over $10,000.
Yeah, well, wouldn't it be nice to have, and again, I don't know what you would suggest people do, but it would be kind of cool to have every client in your database with an ongoing total of what amount of dollars you had made with them through the lifetime of that relationship, I think.
Through our accounting program, we recently switched from QuickBooks to FreshBooks, which is a cloud-based program. And so I know that you can query the database to figure all that out. Whether FreshBooks has all of the old, I'm assuming it does, and Mallory could probably figure it out pretty quickly.
So then for people like me who are just getting started, and by the way, we can discuss some of my trauma if you want to talk about that, but for people just getting started, I think that this element of accounting, and again, you're using FreshBooks, you can tell us why, but the reason why you want to start getting your books in shape as soon as possible is because it allows you to see where you're getting your business, new clients, old clients, et cetera, right?
Yes, yeah.
And why FreshBooks and not QuickBooks? Tell people.
Well, FreshBooks is cloud-based, and so it's just we can access it anywhere, anytime, from any device. Mobile, it's just convenient. And it also offers, when we invoice a client, it makes it easier for them to pay faster with like PayPal, for instance. That's an option it just automatically incorporates into the invoice. And now I get paid a lot faster, generally speaking.
Somebody asked me a question yesterday in another field, and I think that you've kind of given me the answer without knowing it, which is, I think it was Avish who I was talking to. Avish is one of my other JV partners. who deals in the speaking and the training industry. And my question, the question that we were discussing is, does it look kind of low rent to approach a client to pay you using PayPal?
Here's the way I've approached it. I have never asked for a specific, like I've never gone to a client and said, "Hey, can you pay me by PayPal?" Because I think it would kind of sound that way. But what I've always done is I say there's two. You can pay me either by check or by PayPal, whatever's most convenient for you.
Now, what have your numbers? What have your numbers been? And maybe again, this is a Mallory question. But have you seen? Because in my opinion, from what I've seen in different industries, people are becoming less uncomfortable paying through PayPal.
Oh, yeah, I can tell you with a great deal of certainty, I get paid a greater percentage of my income comes through PayPal. Mallory's told me that, and I'm sure she could give me the numbers. I don't know what they are.
But over the last year or two, that instead of 10% of the business coming from PayPal, it might be 20 or 30 now, right?
Oh, as a matter of fact, I would bet you that's very close to 20 or 30%. Yes.
Okay, so then for people who, again, are either new to the business or haven't really set up their books as carefully as they should have, number one, FreshBooks, because it's cloud-based, any device, and number two, offer PayPal in addition to checks. Any other way they can pay? They can give you cash in an envelope too, right?
I'd take it anyway. I prefer them not mail it to me, that way. But I have some clients overseas that pay me through Western Union or direct, more likely to be given to me via direct bank deposit. I've got clients who do that as well.
For those people who are web savvy, any Bitcoin people?
No, nobody's asked, and I wouldn't accept it anyhow.
Okay. Well,
I wouldn't know how to spend it.
Let's go back to Monday here. So we're back on Monday, and you did a couple of projects. Anything else happen on Monday?
Well, I just started doing some more auditions. I had the time, so I auditioned. Right. As a matter of fact, I picked up my auditioning pace a lot this week, so I'm sure I'll see. Well, actually, I even picked up a job. As a matter of fact, I did an audition on Monday through voices.com and got the job on Tuesday. So I was able to pick up a new client that way. So that was good.
Got it. I'm curious to know, do you record the total or keep a record of the total number of auditions you do?
No, but I'm going to. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to Mallory a while ago. There's several stats that I want to start keeping track of. And I've done it enough to have a good feel for what I get about 1 out of every 10 auditions I win, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think that number, from the standpoint of you and I speaking every week, doing this podcast and YouTube presentation, I think it would be an excellent stat for you to keep, which is to keep the total number of auditions per week and then your closing rate at whatever point as it happens, because that really would give people some insight on people at your level, because we talked about, on a previous podcast about the fact that when you first got going, it took you 100 or so auditions before you got your first job. And it would be an interesting stat to keep. Okay,
I can tell you this, the first 2 weeks of 2015 I kept copious notes. And I averaged 60 auditions a week the first 2 weeks of 2015. I got so busy, I just quit keeping stats because it was becoming more tedious to keep track of stuff. Then I had so much work coming in and deadlines, and I got, let's see, that's 120 auditions, and I got 12 clients out of that, which was exactly 1 out of 10.
12 new clients?
Yes, these are all new clients.
So again, and would you say, and again, you talk to some people, other people in voiceover. I know that you're mainly there in your booth. Oftentimes you sleep there, you get your meals there, and they sometimes let you out, for various things.
Yeah.
But my question is this number, do you think, 1 out of 10, is that something that we should be aspiring to as VO artists? Is that a number you think that's pretty good? It's just like when we look at batting averages in base. If you bat 300, you're a world-class hitter.
Well,
is 1 out of 10 a world-class voiceover?
In all humility, it is. Yeah, it pretty much is. And it took me a long time to get there.
And now, how do you know that? Is this from talking to other people in the business?
Yeah, and just talk. Yeah, and yes, it's exactly where it comes from. And so
now the question for you really is, and again, we're jumping ahead for most people who probably aren't anywhere near the level you're at. But to move to the next level, for you to start doing $10,000 a week, would require you to start booking jobs that are probably the stuff that, the agent-based material, correct?
Yes, because as as you know, there's only a couple of ways to make more money. You either sell more stuff, you get more work, or you charge more, or maybe hopefully a little bit of both.
Right.
But it's wearing. I mean, there's only so many auditions you can do in a day. There's only so many projects you can do in a day. And as a matter of fact, I saw a Facebook post of a fellow voice talent friend of mine yesterday, who said that he's working 16-hour days, and
Wow.
and he's a younger guy. I think he's in his late 20s, maybe
He may be
mid-20s.
a person that we interview at some point, right?
Could be.
I think I know who this might be. Anyway, so
But
wow, 16 hours a day.
yeah, and that's great. I mean, he's able to book enough work, and there's enough demand, and that's great. And frankly, if I was his age, I would be too. I turned 56 in a couple of weeks. I'm probably almost twice his age, and it's like, for one thing, I just don't have that much energy. And number two, perspective changes and priorities and all of that. As you get older, and now I've got, not only my kids, but I have grandkids who live here. And my life is a lot different than it was 20, 30 years ago. I'm not interested in that. I would have been 20 years ago, not now.
But again, your orientation now is to try and find those jobs that pay 3, 4, and 5 times as much as the current jobs.
Yes. Or there's other variables to look at, which, by the way, we'll be touching base on in my webinar that we'll be doing this Tuesday night on setting
that real
rates.
quick. Tell people about that. When is it?
Yeah, it'll be Tuesday night. This video is being released Monday, so Tuesday night, May. What would that be?
See, I've got it here. Hold on. It's May the
19th.
What is it? 19th. Yeah.
Yeah, from 8 to 9:30 Central Time.
Perfect.
We're talking about and we'll be talking about setting and negotiating rates. But there are different variables you look at. When you look at value, and it's not just what you're getting paid. It's how frequently. Like, for instance, I've got a guy who gives me. He wanted me to do radio commercials for him, and my quote for him was $250 for a 30-minute commercial. It takes me less than 5 minutes to record.
30-second commercial.
Yeah,
30-second.
30-second commercial. And he said, he said, I can't do that. My budget will not allow that. However, what I can guarantee you is, he said, I will give you a steady stream of work, and I will pay you quickly. And for $100 a commercial, which is less than half of what I wanted. But I decided to work with the guy based on those variables. One of the best decisions I ever made. This guy sends me work every week, sometimes up to 3 commercials a week. It takes me no time at all to do. He's super easy. He never sends it back and says, inflect this word differently. He's low maintenance. He just says thank you, and I send it back, and he pays me the next day.
Perfect.
I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, and so give me, if you're doing 3 of those 30-second spots a week, total amount of time spent to do that was how much?
15 minutes.
Right. So 15 minutes, you got paid $300. That's an hourly rate of $1,200 an hour.
Yeah, I'll line those up all day long. So it's not. You have to look at it within. You have to look at it in the larger picture, the bigger context. It's not just what you get for it. It's everything that goes with it. Because there are some people, who will nitpick you to death, and all of a sudden that $100 project, you realize you should have been paid $1,000 for all the time that you put into it.
Okay, so what's the lesson then for people who are listening or watching to this in terms of what they should do? How should they approach their business? What does that sort of lesson tell them?
Well, when you're negotiating, there's only so much you know. Really, experience tells you what you need to know about a client. But when you're negotiating, you want to know how frequently they're going to be giving you work, how quickly they pay, because that's value. That's value.
And how easy they are to deal with.
Yeah, and that you don't know till you actually deal with them. That's the thing you don't know. That's the X factor.
But a lot of them will make promises like, "Oh, Bill, I'm going to give you a ton of work, so do it for $100 each time." And then what happens? They don't do it.
They don't. Yeah. And then so then you have to reevaluate. Is there value there for me?
Now, for people who want to sign up for the seminar coming up on the 19th of May, or if you're hearing this after the 19th of May, by the way, you can get the recording of it as well, which we'll be making available. How do they do that? What's the website?
You should go to settingvoiceoverrates.com.
And as you create the video for this on YouTube, you may want to put that down and have a clickable link for people.
Sounds
Make
like
a
a
note.
plan.
Okay, so we're still on Tuesday. Where are we? I forgot.
Yeah, we're on Tuesday now. I did several projects. I did something for a company called Batelco. They're a communications company. That was for a European client. I did some work for Hitachi. I do a lot of their narration for their salespeople. I picked up a new Canadian client through this Voices.com audition. Kitchener Wilmot Hydroelectric Power. It was safety training. More work for Toastmasters. As I mentioned last week, I do training for them. And then some more cruise line sales training as well.
Nice. Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, nothing terribly exciting, just run-of-the-mill stuff.
Which particular cruise line was that?
It was not any in specific. It was targeted to like agents.
Got it.
So it could be for really any cruise line.
Now, I think that this brings up a question that many people might be asking. I know I would be, which is, and I think we may have discussed this before, are there situations, let's say, for example, that you and Vicky and maybe Mallory and whoever wanted to go on a cruise, and you said, hey, instead of paying me for this, why don't you just give me 3 free 10-day cruises?
Yeah, and if I was on the outside looking in, that's something I would think, oh, yeah, why don't you do that? The reality, that's never happened. And the reason is because I almost always never work with that client. I'm working for the production company that has them as a client. So so that's why that doesn't work for me, usually.
There's a conduit in between there.
Yeah.
But had you gotten a client directly, let's say, a cruise directly, would you be willing to do that kind of a deal?
Oh, I would. If somebody said, look, you know what, hold on, I did that. Now I remember, years ago, a long, long time ago, I traded a barter of commercial for product. It's a boutique golf club manufacturing company called Bettinardi. If you follow PGA Golf, Matt Kuchar uses a Bettinardi putter. They're a super high-end putter manufacturer. And they hired me to do some commercials for the Golf Channel. And their facility is just about a half hour up the street from where I live, and I know the owner. And they offered me putters. So these are like $400 putters in exchange for, so they gave me, I don't know how many putters they gave me, but I did a couple TV commercials and they gave me a bunch of putters. And I sold most of them on eBay.
So in other words, though, you took the entire job's pay in product rather than in...
I did. That's the only time I can ever remember that happening, yes.
Now, would you recommend or not recommend people listening, watching this do that?
I mean, if they have what you need, if it's a usable, item, or you can turn around and sell it, if it has value in either of those ways, sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, because to me, if I landed Cunard Cruise Lines or Celebrity Cruise Lines as a client, I would be very, very open, because for them, it would be nothing for them to give me, a room on a cruise ship, or actually I'd be negotiating for 4. But so in that case, I would take it in an instant.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. Good discussion. What about Wednesday? Talk to me about Wednesday.
I did a commercial in the morning. Did some short, and actually I don't even remember what that commercial was, but I did a commercial. I think it was a car commercial. I did a short training narration. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, I'm the podcast voice for Accenture, the insurance risk management firm. So I do all their podcast work.
Got it. And so that was part of Wednesday's
That was Wednesday, yeah.
Okay, what about Thursday?
Thursday, some more training narration. I did a little commercial for, have you ever heard of Niels Brock University in Copenhagen? I had never heard of them before.
I've been to Copenhagen, but I've never visited Niels Brock.
It's a university. I'd never heard of it. A client that I do work for from India gave me that job. So
in India, you mean a production company?
No, they're actually an e-learning type, a learning services company, and for some reason they had need to have this recorded for Niels Brock University. So I did it. Usually, what I do is like corporate training for them.
And I think we've discussed this before, but one of the reasons why you're so open with mentioning names of clients and things like that, in a lot of businesses, I got to tell you, people would never mention names because they would feel like, oh my gosh, somebody's going to go out and steal a client from me. But in actual fact, in the voiceover business, it's kind of like, I just think that there's work out there, and if you happen to be the right sound for the right client, and there's so much of it. What's your thinking on that for somebody
Yeah,
listening?
it's it's unlikely somebody could go out and steal a job that you're already doing. However, what I'm giving you are the end clients. I'm not mentioning the names of the people that I get the work through, because
Right.
I have had people, they'll contact me and say, "Well, tell me that company you do work for." And earlier on in my career, I was naive enough just to tell people, and then I would find out they went out, and they contacted them trying to get my work. And I wouldn't do that to somebody. And so I don't give out, or rarely, it depends, but I rarely ever give out company names.
Got it. Okay.
So I went out and I mined that information, online, and that's how you do it. Anybody can do it.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. So then we're now moving to, we done with Thursday yet?
Yeah, we're looking at today. Today's been a pretty busy day.
Good.
A couple of on-hold projects, one for a credit union here in Illinois, one for an Ace Hardware in Texas. Did some medical narration, did some IT narration regarding Android security. I'm pausing so you can insert something about the iPhone and how iOS wouldn't be as security vulnerable.
iOS wouldn't be a security.
I usually take every chance you can get to say how great Mac is, or Apple, I should say. I did a sales video narration for Brocade, and then I got a new client today, which came through a referral, which is always cool when that happens. And it was for it's for social workers in Oregon to recognize and report abuse of elderly or of anybody, adults or children.
This brings up a question that I think that a lot of people could make use of. Have you ever given thought to going out within 5 or 10 miles of your house to identify any entity, corporation, association that could use voiceover talent, and just do some kind of either a mailing or a face-to-face to just go, hey, I'm right here in your neck of the woods. You should be using me instead of somebody else.
I mean, I can't say that it hasn't crossed my mind, but I quickly decided not to, and I'll tell you the reason why. I found it's just as easy to get work halfway around the world that it is just up the street.
Got it.
And interestingly, I've been hired, by clients in and around the Chicago area who didn't even know that's where I was at. I do their project for them, and they had no idea.
Because immediately what came to mind for me was, why not send out some kind of a postcard mailing? Buy some kind of a list, send out a postcard mailing, say, ever use voice talent? ? I'm right here in your local area, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if that kind of thing would be successful. Maybe you should test that and tell people the result.
Now, I tell you what, if the client liked to have the voice talent come into their facilities, which some do,
yeah,
then I think that could be very effective. But nowadays, for clients who are willing to work outside their own market, it doesn't matter if you're in Paducah, Kentucky, or or Turkey, or it just doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Okay, well, good. So now, again, summarizing anything that we've said thus far about the week that needs to be reiterated or emphasized for the folks that are listening.
I'm giving a lot of thought going forward how to, kind of right side the ship. And again, I'm not worried about it. I know where it all came from, so I am auditioning more. But it's interesting, in the interest of full disclosure and some transparency, you get to a place in your life where you have to find balance. When you're self-employed, and you know this, you're self-employed, it's when you are solely responsible for your success or failure, there's a lot riding on what you do or what you don't do. And as a result, I can think of one time in the past 9 years since I've been doing this that I actually took a vacation that was longer than 3 or 4 days, including the weekend. And I'm I was talking to my wife the other night, and I said, it grinds you down, and I enjoy it.
And speaking of which, that's one of the things we'll let people know, because we want to start generating the interest now, is Bill and I were very seriously considering maybe putting on an event in the UK this coming fall, and we thought, number one, in order for that to happen, we'd have to get a bunch of people, because you'd be foregoing income, and we'd take at least a week off, which would be longer than any vacation you had in life.
So, trying to find balance in your life, and I've got to take a vacation. I told my wife last night, I got to take a vacation. I just got to take a week. I've got to not think about any of this and kind of refresh and get ready to, to hit it again.
Well, the other thing is that I was thinking about, and speaking, we're now combining 2 or 3 ideas here at once. I'm really being clever. And that is, what about, and this is something that we should get feedback from our people who are on our YouTube channel or listening via podcast, which is this. How many of you folks would be interested in doing a cruise with Bill? So what we do is we take a cruise and we open it up to other people. And let's be very honest about how this works, which is that if you and I are the cruise sort of sponsors, if we get X number of people to come along on a very reasonably priced cruise, we get our cruise for free. So our compensation, so what we're trying to do, folks, very transparently is, hey, you can come hang with Bill, but leave him alone during certain hours, which he'll tell you, hey,
well, I'm working on my tan.
Working on my tan. And but what we could do is, it's kind of like the idea of getting paid to go on vacation. And of course, we would throw in there to make it tax deductible for everyone. And again, please talk to your own accountant about this. We would want to make it a voice-over cruise that would allow people to come on the cruise. We'd have a vacation, and we'd have at least 1 or 2 or 3 lectures to make it so that there really was an educational element. What do you think about that, Bill?
That could be fun. Yeah.
Okay, so
I've never been on a cruise.
Yeah.
I do get motion sick sometimes driving, so I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, we got plenty of drugs for that. Don't worry.
Okay, excellent then. Count me
Good.
in.
And you're on other medication anyway, but that's okay. So we won't tell people about that. So anyway, anything else to close this down?
No, I think that's pretty much it for this week.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, folks, for listening. And again, tell your friends, tell your relatives, tell anyone that you know about both the YouTube channel and this podcast so we can spread the word and get people to understand what happens to Bill DeWeese on a weekly basis and how you can benefit.